Belal Muhammad is your new UFC welterweight champion after defeating Leon Edwards this past Saturday. And a lot of people are asking what should be next here. ESPN getting their own poll up here as far as the next fight. And to me, it's so obvious it should be Shavkat Rakhmonov. And that's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. My name is James Lynch. So first and foremost, why does ESPN have Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman on here? Leon Edwards had a couple title defenses. He got absolutely dominated in that fight. He should be completely out of the equation. So let's scratch Leon off this list. Kamaru Usman's coming off 2 losses, 3 actually, if you think about it. He lost the title to Leon Edwards, he lost the trilogy to Leon Edwards, and then he lost to Khamzat Chimaev. The Chimaev fight was at 85, but I really don't see a reason why Usman should get a shot here. I know some people have suggested that, but I mean, it doesn't make any sense when you have fighters coming off wins. These are the 2 guys that should be talked about the most. You could even make a case for Ian Gary. I'm not going to make that case in this video, but the obvious choice for me is Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now, I've heard some people downplay Shavkat and talk about how he needs to do more, and listen, I know Shavkat hasn't fought in a while. His last win over Stephen Thompson was in December, but it was a good win. Look, Thompson, is he a top contender in the weight class? Absolutely not. But the fact that the fact that Shavkat was able to finish Thompson in the second round, only the second fighter to finish Thompson in the UFC, to me is very impressive. Like, you can't help who you fight. You have to fight who's put in front of you. And if you're having A+ performances against those opponents, then that should be a reason to get a title shot. And all these guys are ranked here. Neil Magny, ranked, finished him in the second round. Jeff Neal, ranked, finished him in the third round. Still the only fighter to finish Jeff Neal in the UFC. That's very impressive. Stephen Thompson, again, ranked, finished him as well. His problem, unfortunately, is just activity. There just aren't a lot of guys to fight. I think everyone thought that it was going to be Shavkat and Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 305. We know what happened there. Jack Della Maddalena out due to arm surgery. And since that article, which came out in May, we've known that Jack's had some complications. So it doesn't sound like he's going to be fighting anytime soon. I have yet to hear even anything from his camp since this title fight took place. I think if Jack was ready to go, he would put his name out there as far as a potential fight. So to me, it's just so obvious. And not only that, you've got 2 fighters who are Muslim. The UFC goes to the Middle East very often. They're going to go in October. I know some people have mentioned that that could be a little bit too close from Belal's last fight. I understand that, but think of how massive that would be for Abu Dhabi, having 2 Muslim fighters fight against each other. To my knowledge, I don't think we've seen 2 Muslim fighters fight each other for a title. That would be massive for that market. We're seeing right now some rumblings. Actually, this just was mentioned today about Topuria and Holloway headlining that card. That could happen too, but you want Muslim fighters on this card. You want to go heavy on that market to appease the fans. I think this is a fight that makes a ton of sense, assuming both guys are ready to go. I know Shavkat's chomping at the bit. He hasn't fought since December. And then also Belal, didn't look like Belal took a ton of damage, but I also understand he just won the title. Maybe we should wait until next year to have his next fight, but they'll be going back to the Middle East next year anyway. So I think right now Shavkat's the leading contender just because, again, JDM is out. Ian Gary, I mean, I only mention him because he hasn't lost, but Gary's win over Michael Venom Page. I mean, let's go have a look at Gary's record here. It was a good win. It wasn't a great win. He didn't finish him. He won the fight. It was good. And I think Ian himself mentioned that, he's not ready to fight for a title yet. I don't think he used those exact words, but he didn't say, give me a title next. I think he knows that he has at least another fight or 2 to take that as well. He wanted to fight Shavkat, but again, you got to have someone fight now. And I don't think Belal needs to wait. I mean, Belal had to wait so long to get this title shot against Leon Edwards. I don't think he wants to be waiting much longer for 2 other guys to fight and then the winner of that fight, Belal. I don't think that makes sense. And that's what Kamaru Usman has suggested today. There's a MMA Junkie has transcribed an interview that he had on his Pound for Pound show, and some of the stuff I don't really agree with here. We'll go through some of the quotes, but he says, what does he say here? Let me find the quote. Whoops, I went too far down here. Usman says that he says, he lost to Leon Edwards, referring to himself, but people have amnesia very quickly. People forget that I was winning almost 24 minutes of that fight until lightning struck and Leon landed that kick. He's right about that, but that was 3 fights ago. The rematch you lost, or the trilogy you lost to Leon, right? He lost the fight by decision. It was close, but he clearly lost that fight. The thing about Usman, and listen, I think Usman would be a fun fight getting back in title contention. I think Usman needs another fight. I actually think Usman and Jack Della Maddalena makes a ton of sense. The problem with Usman is, where was this talk before 304? Like, we haven't heard anything. I kept talking about it on my live stream. Is Usman even active anymore? It seems like he's quite happy with his podcast. This is the first time we've heard him come out and speak about potentially fighting again. I think he would have been better off saying this before 304 and put his name in the hat, because I think right now a lot of people didn't really know what his intentions are. I mean, by the sounds of this, he does want to fight, but I think he needs to fight. Now, he's saying he should fight Shavkat or JDM. My issue is, I think, I think Shavkat's done enough to earn the title shot. I think JDM has as well, but I think with Shavkat, he hasn't fought since December. Let's get him in there. And like I said, there's that angle of having two Muslim fighters compete against each other. I think that makes a lot more sense here. So again, I think Usman should wait until JDM's ready to go, or do Usman and Ian Gary. That makes sense as well. I personally want to see Leon and Ian Gary because there's some history there. They've used to train together, but I think Usman and JDM would be fine. My issue with Usman is, Shavkat. And here's the thing. I have a clip of this on my channel. I'll show it to you guys right now. Usman, we asked him earlier this year. He was a guest fighter on here. And he mentions that, well, Corey, where is it? Here is my things going off. Usman, Shavkat. Sorry, I should have had this teed up. Basically, Usman says, and this was, I guess it was a year ago. Wow, okay, then that was longer than I thought. But he basically said he didn't want to fight Shavkat until it was a title shot. I think they could have made that fight after Usman's lost to Chimaev. I think they could have done him and Shavkat, and then if he wins that fight, then he's back in the saddle. But he didn't choose to do that. He basically went, off to do his show, and he didn't really mention much outside of that. Like, Usman hasn't fought, and he's 37. Usman hasn't fought since the fight against Chimaev in October. So it's like, again, I would have preferred him to speak up a little bit more if this is something that he wanted, because we've known for a while that Shavkat doesn't have an opponent. But this whole news about Jack Della Maddalena came out when it said that it wasn't going to happen at 305, which is taking place in a few weeks. Why didn't Usman step up and say, I'll fight him? Now he's saying it, I think, because Belal's the champ, and I think there's maybe a clearer path there, because technically Usman's lost twice to Leon Edwards. I think it's pretty hard for him to get a third shot if Leon was still champ. Now that Belal's champ, he's spoken up and said that. So I think if they wanted to do Shavkat and Usman, they should have done that before, because right now, I just think right now, I think Shavkat and Belal at 308 makes sense if Belal's ready to go. Again, I understand the concerns about getting Belal right back in there immediately and having this fight when he just fought, but at the same time, isn't this what the fans want? They want champs to be active here. Belal getting the opportunity to defend his title in Abu Dhabi, I think, would be a pretty special moment for him. Again, it's going to depend on what type of injuries he was dealing with and how he's looking going into this. But that, to me, I think is a slam dunk fight, is Shavkat and Belal Muhammad. Now, people have been asking me if this fight does end up happening, and we might as well talk about that a bit here, who would win this fight. I mean, the way Belal looked on Saturday, I have a hard time picking against him. Shavkat does get hit a little bit. I would imagine that, again, Belal being able to get on the inside like he did against Leon, Leon obviously a tall opponent just like Shavkat is. I think Belal could have some success in maybe taking out Belal Muhammad, or Shavkat being able to take out Belal Muhammad, maybe having some success. Sorry, I totally mixed that up. Belal, I'm saying, could have some success against Shavkat because he's taller. We've seen with Leon, he's able to get in, as I'm mixing up my words here. But I think right now, just again, maybe because it's fresh in my head, I do slightly lean Belal, but this is one I'd love to do a deep dive on. But I just think this is such a big fight for the UFC. And that's one of the things with the Abu Dhabi cards, is that the UFC, they put on some good events, but they also had like that fight with Islam and Volk that was kind of rushed, put together at the last minute. Let's get a good build up to a big fight like this with two fan bases that are really big. And there's a lot of respect between these two guys. I know Shavkat felt like Belal deserved the shot long ago before he ended up getting it. I know Belal's got a lot of respect for Shavkat. I mean, this would just be one of those like fun fights with two high level guys. There's not going to be any trash talk. That's another reason why I like this fight, is that there's no BS. There's no theatrics. There's no like, got to play a character and talk trash. Like, you're not going to see Belal say some of the things that he said to Leon that he's going to say to Shavkat. There's a lot of respect there, I think. So that to me would be really interesting. Shavkat, Belal, I think it makes sense. Again, these people nitpicking at Shavkat's, resume. He's got 3 ranked wins. He's finished all the ranked guys. Could he have been more active and fought more guys? Absolutely. But a lot of that's just the fact that, I think it's been tough to book Shavkat fights. I think there's a lot of guys that don't want to fight Shavkat. So again, Shavkat, Belal to me is the fight next. If you can't do it at 308, I say you just book it, fairly soon, maybe the beginning of next year, whatever card they're going to go to the Middle East after this, that's the fight to make. But to me, there's no question. So what I would do right now, if we're going to do the matchmaking, I would do Belal and Shavkat. I would do Leon and Ian Gary, and I'd do JDM and Kamaru Usman, and that satisfies everyone here. So that's all I got to say on this fight. Let's make it happen, guys. Shavkat Rakhmonov, Belal Muhammad, that's got to be the next title fight. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know your thoughts on this. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.